All right, welcome back. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of a preview as to what's happening inside the plenary. I know that we've been giving you a couple of cutaways now and then while we've been outside the door. But this is the main session. This is where it's all going to be happening. And, of course, this is the main stage that everybody's still setting up right now. So it really is early days as we come to you and wrap up from the Intra-African Trade Fair 2021. So just to tell you which heads of state are actually in the country presently and that are going to be in attendance here. I got the confirmed list. So we've got the Nigerian president who will be here this morning as well. Buhari, of course, is the president of Nigeria. Also got the president of Tanzania, Zanzibar, Togo, Malawi, Rwanda. Paul Kagame is also going to be present here as well. Zambia and, of course, Emerson Mnangagwa, who is the president of Zimbabwe. Then, of course, our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is going to also be addressing those that are gathered here and, of course, everybody that'll be watching it here on SABC News. I'm sure that we'll be broadcasting that live. It's a big moment indeed for the African continent because talking about trade is a very, very big deal for South Africa and the rest of the continent, and intra-trade, because it's something that appears to be a very difficult thing for a lot of companies to do trade on the African continent. Obviously, if you're well developed, you have the money, you have the infrastructure in order to do this, it's fine. But if you're not, that's where the difficulties come in. That's why we took a special focus this morning on talking to the youth and finding out how they can get involved in all of this. But I mean, when we hear figures that 16% of total intra-trade is the only amount that happens on the continent as opposed to other continents, you've got to worry and ask questions why and how do we overcome this? I mean, there are potentially 1.2 billion customers that can be serviced on this continent, and we need to get in there and ensure that we can help ourselves as a continent. All right, let me chat to our final guest here on the program, and that's Mr. John Racha. He, of course, is the Chief Director of Trade and Investment Africa at the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Wonderful to have you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
So, I mean, this is a massive moment for the continent and, you know, more importantly, South Africa stepping up to the plate literally at the last minute to host this. Trade on the continent, it's nowhere near its potential. And my question to you straight out is why? What are the difficulties?
A number of factors. Improving or increasing intra-Africa trade has always been a primary objective of the African Union and all the African member states. One of the main reasons is that for a very long time, Africa has been wholly dependent on outside sources to supply to meet its own needs. And with the adoption of Agenda 2063, the continent decided to begin to focus on improving that. And one of the flagship programs was the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that has been adopted and started trading on the 1st of January. So this event takes place in a very attractive environment where there is also a move at the regulatory level to create a more enabling environment. So that's fact number one, was that the enabling environment for that to happen was not there. The second component of that is ensuring that the logistics and supply chains across the continent, infrastructure, both hard and soft, are interconnected in order to allow the fluid movement of goods and services as well. So that is being tackled at the level of the AU through the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, which is really making significant progress, even though there are some major gaps in terms of funding. The third component is Africa's own industrial capacity. So intra-Africa trade means that and with the AfCFTA, it simply means that Africa must have sufficient capacity to produce the goods that it's consuming. Currently, it's the inverse. We are consuming what we are not producing. And I think the intra-Africa trade also puts in the spotlight the need for us to boost our own productive capacity so that we can supply goods from one country to the other one. Yeah. So this event is indeed very timely in that sense.
I mean, and one of the big issues as well is transportation within the continent and the rail infrastructure and other issues that are associated with that. I mean, this needs to be worked on. If you want to have an ease of trade, the transport needs to be fixed.
Yes, and I can assure you some of the bilateral discussions that are already happening at government-to-government level are beginning to look at specifically those things. So we are not only talking about trade, but we are also talking how do we need to connect the countries and where will goods move. So we're looking at our road infrastructure, our rail infrastructure, our maritime connectivity, but also air freight, because goods are also moved by through airlines. So We are looking at that. The other thing is also looking what do we need to do to harmonize regulations? What do you need to do to harmonize our standards, our certification procedures? Because currently, if you look across the continent, each country has got their own specific ones. There are those that are aligned to the UK standards, others to German, others to French, others to Portuguese. And there is a big push to try and harmonize all of that, because by doing so, we are then going to be able to create a system whereby goods certified, for example, in Cote d'Ivoire can easily enter the South African market and vice versa, because the specifications and the standards are almost harmonized and similar.
What is the value of trade on the continent at this moment? I mean, I know it's hard to put a number to, because obviously there's so much happening, but I want to know what the number is, and then I also want to know what the goal is.
If we look at the volume of goods that Africa is currently importing from other parts of the world, so across the globe, it's in the range of between 400 to 500 billion. So 16% of that is what constitutes inter-Africa trade. So it's very, very, very small. With the implementation of the AfCFTA, the expectation is that at least Africa could double that, but also by 2035, 2040, it could actually reach 50%. So that's the goal that we are looking at to push. And there is a very strong commitment across the board for us to move. And I think the evidence of that, as you can see how fast the negotiations around the FCFTA is really progressing from 2018 to date. And I think we are going to be starting to see some changes from next year as negotiations on that begin to be complete.
I mean, we're sitting here in the triple VIP section. Well, we're not sitting, we're standing here, because all of these chairs within this morning are going to be filled up with heads of state from the continent. And I mean, I went through a list of who will be here, and these are big role players within the industry, and it's huge. I mean, from Nigeria to Zambia, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Malawi, Togo, Zanzibar, Tanzania, and of course South Africa. I mean, who knows, there may be more, but this is all I had found out from now. Are we expecting deals to be signed during this time? Are we expecting some more partnerships that are already existing to be strengthened, and more things? And what are you looking forward to out of this?
Look, I'm not at a position to divulge all the detail at the moment, but I can already tell you from the discussions that we have had, everything is pointing in that direction. And to give you an example, the first edition of the IATF in Egypt 2018, there was about $40 billion worth of deals signed. And the expectation is that this will go a little bit beyond that. We'll know the results by 2023 when the next event is taking place. But the intent of this fair is to facilitate business-to-business engagement. So it's not just about exhibiting goods and services, but it's also about putting businesses from across Africa in touch with one another and to actually conclude transactions. And that's what we are aiming for.
John, thank you so much. Should be starting, I'm not sure when. What time are we hoping to start this?
The official opening starts at around 9 o'clock, but I think the heads of state will be in here around about 10, 10:30. Hopefully there won't be too many delays, but I believe that by 12 o'clock we'll be done with the ceremony, and it will be good to move. I just want to say one thing, is to really congratulate the KwaZulu-Natal province for the wonderful work they've done in putting this together with other government departments. As you said at the beginning, at a very short notice, but I think we have managed in a very record time to try and pull all of this together. And I think by later today, tomorrow, things will be much more relaxed and we can have further conversations around that.
Absolutely. And we look forward to those conversations. John, thank you. Thanks so much for talking to us, John Rocco. Of course, he's here. He's part of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, talking to us about the trade within the continent and also what we can expect to come out of these next few days, because this is happening the whole week. So we'll be watching the opening ceremonies that will be taking place today. SABC News, of course, bringing you everything live throughout the week, and we'll be crossing in and out as you can tell. So it's also the heads of states that are coming. We've been through the list of some of them, but no doubt there will be more, I'm sure, that'll be on the agenda. 40 African countries participating in this. It is a massive event taking place, and again, echoing the sentiments, congratulations to the province of KwaZulu-Natal for stepping up and hosting it for this year, pretty much so the last minute, but we'll see hopefully a lot of success coming out of this.